Serbia is a country of 7 million people, yet it's won 3 world championships in men's water polo, 2 world championships in men's basketball, and Olympic gold in men's volleyball. It's also home to not one, but 3 world number ones in global tennis, including perhaps one of the greatest players of all time, Novak Djokovic. I'm not even going to mention what their youth and women teams have accomplished. Karachi, in its metropolitan area alone, has a population of roughly 15 million people. Theoretically, 2 Serbias could fit inside the city of Karachi. While this tells us a lot about how Serbia has structured its sports, it also tells us a lot about how we've structured ours. So while that's professional sports, let's talk about an example that might hit a bit closer to home. In a 2014 study done by the medical journal The Lancet, in a global obesity study, Pakistan ranked number 8 in the world. Yes, number 8. We've gone past any notion of describing ourselves as a healthy population. We might as well have been some time ago, but clearly not today. We've created this sedentary lifestyle in which screen-based activities prioritize all physical activities. Cheap and easily available fast food and drinks flood our markets, leading to poor nutrition. Meanwhile, children only copy what their adults do, and when they see their parents and adults not really maintaining themselves physically, not really giving any focus to their own health, children only normalize and internalize that as they grow older, they're not supposed to do the same. I give you these 2 examples to outline what this talk is about. It's firstly about the state of domestic sports in Pakistan, in how domestic failures have left us languishing on an international scale. And then I talk about this current situation of sports in schools, which I often feel is the root cause of why we've been forgotten about sports in the national conscience in the first place. So I'll give you first a couple of examples from domestic sports. So last month, there was the Qaid-e-Azam Trophy final. The Qaid-e-Azam Trophy is Pakistan's premier cricketing competition. If you could have a raise of hands, how many of you knew that the final was being played last month? Raise of hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. I expected a bit more, but this is what we have. Now, does anyone know where the final was played? It was right here in Karachi at the National Stadium. For those of you who commute near or across the National Stadium, how many of you saw a single banner denoting that the country's premier cricketing competition was happening inside? There is never any banner. There is no indication. You would only mostly see a board guard sitting outside with no emphasis that Pakistan's greatest cricket is being played inside. Now, in the final itself, we had players who had won us the Champions Trophy, who had been part of our world number 1 test team, yet no one really went up and saw them. This is, sadly, the state of domestic cricket in Pakistan, in which we have nearly no respect for who are really our national heroes. I want to talk a bit about football. So the Pakistan Premier League was Pakistan's top flight football competition. I say was because the last time it was played was 2 years ago. A couple of months ago, the Pakistan Football Federation actually got banned by FIFA due to being under investigation by the Lahore High Court. This ban means that Pakistan can no longer play any international match, though the last time the men's team did play a match was in 2015. Their global ranking as of the end of last year was 201. Being stripped of FIFA membership means that Pakistan will receive no funding, training, or programs from either FIFA or the Asian Football Confederation. Now, does anyone really want me to explain how bad this is for football in the country? All of you are a lot smarter than I am, it's true. So I'll leave that to you. However, what I would like to say is that for a country in which kids stay up till 2 a.m. to watch European football, in which replica jerseys are so easily available, how is Pakistan ranked 201 in world football? In this talk, I thought about including a bit about the plight of field hockey in our country, but do we really even want to go there? Let's talk a bit about alienation in sports, though. In this past season of our domestic cricketing year, which included the Qaid-e-Azam Trophy, the Pakistan Cup, the Regional One Day Cup, and the Departmental One Day Cup. There were 4 venues used in Karachi, 3 in Islamabad, and 2 each in Rawalpindi and Lahore. That's a total of 11 venues. The rest of the country accounted for just 6 more. You sometimes feel that there's this really clear federalization in how we've mapped out our domestic cricket, in which a large chunk of our cricket is given to major urban centers. What's weird is, however, that just look at the past Champions Trophy winning squad. There were the 50-man squad, only 5 players came from major urban centers. For example, Hassan Ali is from Mandi Bahauddin. Shadab Khan comes from Mianwali. So we need to really understand where we're getting our cricketers from and where we need to really invest. While one could understand why you could keep cricket concentrated in so little of the country, one needs to ask, why don't we do more? We've won a World Cup, we've won the World T20, we've been number 1 in Test cricket, and we won the Champions Trophy. That's huge. So we've done technically all that there is to accomplish in world cricket, but we haven't even realized the potential of over half the country. This denial of a sporting infrastructure speaks volumes of how callous we are for not the promotion of what is not the national sport, but is indeed the national passion. Another avenue I wanted to explore a bit was about adventure sports. Pakistan has 5 of the world's 14 8,000 meter plus mountains. However, we rarely ever focus on them. Till 2011, there were 306 ascents on K2. Guess how many were done by Pakistanis? 10. That's roughly 3%. 322 ascents were made on Nanga Parbat. 34 by Pakistanis is perhaps a slightly more respectable number. But for something so easily accessible in our own backyard, we spend very little time in even realizing their potential. 2 summers ago, I went on a trek to Concordia, which is the place where you can see 4 of Pakistan's 5 8,000ers, including K2. That's the Baltoro Glacier, the vast expanse of the glacier, and being surrounded by the majestic mountains on nearly all 4 sides is the cliched sight to behold. I walked for 10 days, had blisters on both my feet, and twist my right arm, which when you're a tennis player probably isn't the best thing to happen, but I felt extremely humbled. It's a sight and it's an experience which I feel every Pakistani should have, yet few usually do, and they spend their entire lives not knowing what they're missing. But how do we improve our current outlook in sports? This is the second part of my talk, where I talk about school sports. I feel that change needs to come from the bottom up. The push for sports needs to start in our schools. We need to dispel this way of thinking in which we feel that kids will automatically think about their own physical well-being and will be committed towards improving it. Schools need to push harder in ensuring that each child gets an adequate amount of physical activity every day. For the school I had in my O-levels, we would have 1 30-minute period of physical activity a week. And all children weren't even afforded that. They were punished on not doing well academically. Schools should be the number 1 place where we realize that sports are a critical factor of our own social lifestyle. Based on my own experience, I would feel that sports would often be pushed aside as something that would take time away from what would be considered more important. Your studies would be considered more important than sports. Sports would never be a way of complementing your growth as a human being and individual, and would just be something that would distract you from your main focus of achieving a certain academic goal. So what I would often feel is that we were developing kids who would get a certain grade, tailoring courses based on doing well on an exam, but unlocking potential and ambition was never really looked after. Nevertheless, that's an entirely different debate, but it does weave into what we're discussing about sports today, in how we stigmatize sports in Pakistan as something that takes time away from us and not as something that develops us. Now, for recommendations, I'm not really going to propose something too outlandish or outrageous. These are based on World Health Organization guidelines, which are easily available online. So 3 major recommendations come into play when fostering physical growth in schools. They are a school health team, situational analysis, and critically political involvement. For the first one, a school health team is a group of people dedicated not full-time, but are just self-aware of the need for physical activity, not just in students, but in staff and faculty as well. If such a team doesn't exist, the introduction of physical activity necessitates one. These teams could be formed depending on the resources and staff available in each school. It would include the principal, physical education teacher, representatives from the community, students, other teachers, and then whoever's interested from the school staff should also be part of this team. Ideally, this team monitors and coordinates health promotion activities, ranging from preventing tobacco and drug use, promoting healthy nutrition, and physical activity. This team would also execute health objectives for the entire school year. The second recommendation is a situational analysis. For the execution of any health promotion program, a school needs to critically assess its strengths, challenges, perceptions, and needs before starting one. The process could also encompass what the school's greater community can provide, a form of collaborative work. With situational analysis, we look at factors first affecting physical growth, which could often be demographic, like age, gender, ethnicity, and also realizing stuff like older kids being inactive compared to younger kids, and girls not having equal opportunity in physical activity. We then look at the benefits students get from physical activity, like for one, being happier, or having better morale, improving self-esteem, and then improving appearance, and developing strength, endurance, and flexibility. Finally, looking at barriers that restrict access to physical activity, like lack of playing facilities, a huge issue in our country, a lack of time, and sometimes factors like just being in a conservative society, especially dealing with factors in which girls can't play as much sports. The final recommendation is political commitment. There needs to be a national curriculum which mandates physical activity. Federal policies need to be made which require every school in the country to have children involved in sports. Effective advocacy for developing a sporting infrastructure needs to happen at both a national and state level. The public needs to be sensitized at the importance of physical education, which can be done by mass marketing campaigns. Policies in favor of physical activities include ensuring adequate time, resources, and space for physical activity. Legislation for acknowledging the secure provision of basic resources needs to exist, including the designation of an official with the responsibility and authority to supervise the implementation of physical education programs. But as I wind up, I think about the reasons why I gave this talk. For one, I've been to countless domestic games as a sports journalist and as a photojournalist. It included the Qaeda Azam Trophy and the Departmental One Day Cup. And what I've often seen is that there are often more players on the cricket field than there are spectators on the sidelines. While we yearn for international cricket to come back to Pakistan, we often forget that our national heroes are often playing inside our own very grounds. And they deserve our respect and our support. And that happens when we turn up to see them. Secondly, I find it unfathomable that Pakistan is ranked 201 in world football. Not a day goes by in my hometown of Karachi where I do not see a young kid wearing a replica football jersey. How have we left that passion and potential unrealized? Unrealized to the extent of being so poor internationally. Firstly, I thought I would not talk about field hockey, but I have to, because from being the standard in global field hockey to not qualifying for the World Cup and the Olympics means something somewhere went terribly wrong. So I feel that the reasons why I gave this talk ultimately is that I don't really like where we've ended up in sports, and I don't like where we're going either. Something needs to change, and the time to do it is probably right now. Thank you.